On Monday, the UN announced 9 UNRWA staffers had been fired. This due to their alleged involvement in the October 7th slaughter of innocent Israelis. UNRWA currently has 14,000 staff members in Gaza. An IDF spokesperson responded to the firing, posting on X, quote, "A UN investigation has concluded that 9 of your workers might have taken part in the raping, killing, and slaughtering of Israelis and Israel communities during the October 7th massacre. Your relief agency has officially stooped to a new low, and it's time that the world sees your true face," end quote. My next guest is calling for the end of UNRWA. Former National Security Council official Rich Goldberg joins me. Good evening, sir. And for the life of me, even before October 7th, it's like, I don't understand. All these American tax dollars were going to help Palestinians in Gaza, and they were in horrible poverty despite all the money we poured into it. Meanwhile, these Hamas leaders became billionaires, and you would have thought that would we figure that one out a lot sooner?
Greta, listen, this is one of the most dangerous scams committed against the U.S. taxpayer in history. UNRWA is not a refugee agency. This is an organization that is almost completely Palestinian run. It's independent of the actual UN refugee agency that exists. And it's there simply for one purpose, to commit political warfare against Israel. It was set up 75 years ago after Israel's founding to keep people trapped and call them refugees, raise generation after generation to be committed to the destruction of Israel, to say, hey, you're going to be going back to what is today Israel. All these Jews are going to go into the sea. Their textbooks in their classrooms filled with poisonous anti-Semitism. And when you have a staff that is all Palestinian in an area controlled by Hamas, you're going to be collaborating with Hamas. You're going to be employing with Hamas. You're going to be subsidizing Hamas. That's what UNRWA has been doing.
I mean, I don't want any innocent person hurt, or I don't want anyone in poverty, but it's really hard to understand where the difference between Hamas and the Palestinians, I mean, how you tell the difference almost, because there are pictures of Israelis being dragged through the street after October 7th, and you've got, it says Gazans were kicking them and cheering. I don't even know what a Gazan is. Is a Gazan a Palestinian? Is it someone who just lives there? Is it Hamas? I mean, it's just so unclear. Then you hear stories about how some Palestinians are housing some of the hostages, so they're participating. So it's even impossible. I mean, Americans are generous, but we don't even know how our money's being used.
Well, there are a lot of good organizations out there that are professional and know how to give food, or to help kids go to school, or to help governments transition out of conflict zones. We do it all the time, all around the world. It doesn't mean that you need an agency that's in bed with a terrorist organization. The UN wants to say maybe it found 9 bad apples and the rest of UNRWA is okay. No, UNRWA is rotten to the core. We're talking at least half of the employees in Gaza are either in Hamas or their family members are in Hamas. We've seen evidence now over the last 10 months of the Israeli campaign in Gaza where UN institutions, these UNRWA schools and facilities, are co-located with UNRWA, with Hamas terror headquarters. Literally the wiring from the UNRWA offices goes down into these terror tunnels. The money we have been pouring into UNRWA went straight to Hamas. Now remember, Donald Trump cut off UNRWA. He said, no more money. This is a terror finance problem. It was Joe Biden who restarted the money, gave them $1 billion between 2021 and 2023, 40% of that in Gaza, straight to Hamas before October 7th.
And he did cut it off, I think, in January. I will add that. But the other thing about the UN, I thought it really was despicable. They said that they fired 9. I think about 19 are being investigated. And it was so weak. They said they may have been involved and they fired them. May have been. I mean, the UN didn't even step up to the plate and say, here's our evidence, here's our proof. But they had that weak language in the statement. And I thought that really, I thought that was very disheartening. Not that the UN has been, been a roaring success.
Listen, the UN is never going to admit wrongdoing here because the UN doesn't recognize Hamas as a terrorist organization. It's a political organization to them. The UN has never actually condemned October 7th, the General Assembly, right? This is an organization that lowers the flag to half-mast when the Iranian president dies, and is very upset to see Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, go. So we should be defunding the UN in general from the regular budget. We should be defunding UNRWA. Frankly, as somebody who's done sanctions for 2 decades now, UNRWA should be under terrorism sanctions, and we should cut off the rest of its financing from the rest of the world.
Rich Goldberg, thank you, sir.
You bet.